thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. So thank you for those of you who have joined us in the past. Thank you for returning. For those of you who are new to education support, and I will offer you a very warm welcome. So our webinar today is entitled Prioritising Staff Wellbeing with an Employee Assistance Programme. We are joined by Sheila, who's the HR manager at Heart Academies Trust. Heart Academies Trust have been an education support client for around about 4 years. So we'll be talking to Sheila shortly about the approach that Heart Academies take to staff wellbeing and how they utilise our employee assistance programme. Good afternoon, Sheila. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Darren. Thank you. That's fine. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thank you. Can I just could you just give us a little bit of an overview of Heart Academies Trust and numbers, school sizes, etc.
So Heart Academies Trust are based in Bedford, central Bedford in the town. So we got one secondary school, and then in 2017, 3 of the local primary schools joined the secondary. So we've been a full school trust since 2017. All of our schools were in about 1.5 miles of each other, so we've got a really good community feel around that. And as you would expect, therefore, the primary schools tend to be the feeder schools for the secondary. We employ just over 470 staff in the schools and also our centralised services. So we've got centralised services for people like myself in HR, finance, IT, and then cleaning and catering are also centralised. So we've got a centralised resource for that as well.
Okay, excellent. So sounds like you are a very varied organisation covering lots of different job levels, demographics within that area.
Yes, sorry, I forgot to mention also one of our junior school, our primary schools also has a preschool attached to it as well. So 2 standard primary schools and then 1 primary school has a preschool as well.
Okay, excellent. Firstly, I'd just like to understand a little bit more about what prompted you to engage with education support. So what was the thoughts or the rationale or the reasoning? I mean, where did you actually start in your journey with regards to
2017 is when we became a multi-academy trust. We were just a standalone academy. That's also when I joined the trust. When the trust expanded, then I joined as an HR manager. At the time, already in place was a free employee assist provider provided through our childcare voucher scheme. So at that time, you had to have a childcare voucher provider.
Excuse me.
And they provided a scheme. So sort of a year into being a multi-academy trust, at 2018, a year on, we felt that the previous provider wasn't very well utilised, particularly in the primary schools that joined us. There wasn't, in fact, there was limited marketing material. It was literally a phone conversation, a phone call service. And as I'm sure many other people have faced the same challenge. When you grow quite quickly as a trust, then there are lots of sort of mixed emotions about changes to working practices, to leadership, all that kind of thing. And there was a general sort of unrest. At the time, we were experiencing relatively high labour turnover. I think at the end of 2018, we were at 29%. And some of the reasons that people were telling us they were leaving is because they didn't feel valued. We certainly had a number of people suffering with mental health and, again, feeling they're not supported. So we looked then to invest in a programme. So rather than just having something that was provided free, we set out to find a new provider. We looked at a couple of different ones, got the standard 3 quotes, and obviously you were one of those. And particularly, I think what drew us to education support was the fact that it is education based. We had in our senior leadership team some people that had joined the organisation from outside education, and there was a little bit of, people don't understand education. So we really wanted to show that we were aware that, for example, myself, I've never been a teacher, but we do appreciate there are unique challenges faced working in education, and we felt that you as a provider had a greater understanding than some of the other providers we looked at.
Excellent. I'd be interested, apart from obviously the fact we're an education focused provider, what were the other key factors that helped you make the decision to join education?
I think the education was without doubt one of the overriding one. We were put in touch with, I think there's a school up in Manchester, or certainly up north, to, I guess I had a chat with somebody like myself, like I'm doing today, they gave us great feedback, and that was very encouraging. I like the sort of friendly approach that we had in terms of dealing with yourselves. We particularly liked also the face-to-face counselling. I think that was one of the things that we didn't like about our old provider, was the fact that any kind of interaction was only done over the phone. And we believed that in the importance really of face-to-face, you know, as a teacher, except for a short period of time during COVID when we had to do everything remotely, that's what we're about, isn't it? And we felt from talking to our staff that that's what they wanted, is to be able to meet somebody. So that absolutely was a big win for us. I think also the range of other services, certainly what's become more obvious in recent years is the number of people who have taken up legal advice or financial advice through education support, whereas again some of the other providers just concentrated more on counselling, whereas the fact there's real sort of live support for a variety of different situations, I think is another key driver for us.
Excellent. Obviously, you place a value on the face-to-face counselling element. Did you find that staff readily and easily firstly bought into being able to have those sorts of conversations face-to-face, and also just the general other services that were included in the EAP package?
I think, to be honest, that it's been a bit of a slow grow. In terms of face-to-face, I think the hardest challenge for anyone is picking up the phone to call you in the first place. I think people are a little bit more encouraged sometimes when we explain that if they are to see a counsellor, then it is a face-to-face. You know, I know a number of our colleagues who are on waiting lists to see local counsellors through the NHS and or their GP services, because they want the face-to-face. So, you know, when I say to them, oh, actually that's what you can have through education support, it isn't just a case of a telephone call, I think that has really added value. But we have really had to talk that round and get people to understand that. And particularly in relation to other services, again, a lot of that has, I'm aware more people are calling to access those services because of word of mouth. You know, I know a number of colleagues who've said to me, actually, I'm in a situation, you know, a legal situation or a financial situation, and I called education support and they were amazing. And actually, you know, one lady I know was having to go to court over a particularly difficult situation, and she said it was invaluable. And I think there's that power of sharing those stories, encouraging the colleagues themselves to say what they want to their work colleagues about it. And obviously, although we don't highlight the individual or the specific circumstances, we certainly constantly raise those points. Or, you know, for example, with the cost of living crisis, you know, we've raised awareness of education support and some of the other services that they provide. So it has been a drip feed element over the last 4 years that we've been with you.
I think you've kind of hit something that's quite important there, and certainly something we now provide as a matter of course in the implementation process, is to have a EAP launch on the outset of the service.
Yeah.
And that's whereby we will talk to staff and make them fully aware of these are the services that are included within the EAP. These are the benefits to you as an individual of accessing these services. And we also talk very much about the confidentiality aspects of the service as well, so staff know that now that they can use the EAP, safe in the knowledge that no one will ever be able to identify themselves as actually being someone who has actually used that service, which is very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use the management information that we provide? I mean, you spoke very briefly about the aggregated reports, but do you find the data in there useful?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we our subscriptions up for renewal in the autumn term. So over the summer term, also over some holidays, actually, we look at those reports, and I guess it helps say to our board, look, actually, these are the number of people that are using it. It's very difficult to get feedback from staff because we're kind of mindful, as you said just there, Darren, that the service is confidential. So if you start asking too much, what I don't want to be seen is breaching any of that confidentiality. But what we have seen from the reports is, you know, sort of consistent usage in all schools. We had one school where there was one particular year, and according to the reports, they hadn't had any calls or anything from that school. So we just made sure that that school had more resources. We put in the introductory launch that you referred to. We've got a video that I think you sent us of that launch. We sent it to their wellbeing lead to encourage them to play it as part of their induction. You know, just made sure that the head teacher and wellbeing lead talked about the resources, talked about the service. And I noticed when I reviewed the report, this summer that actually that school had got the highest number of referrals. And I know it will always be peaks and troughs depending on situations, but we certainly think, well, hang on a minute, we're paying for this service, and actually if somebody in a particular school is not accessing it, maybe it's because we haven't informed them sufficiently as to how they can access it and the variety of services they can get.
You'll be pleased to know that we have actually automated our reporting, so you will be receiving reports on a termly basis as well. That will come to you automatically.
Yeah.
One thing that did pique my interest, or was very interesting, you did state at the beginning about your staff turnover rates and your absence rates. Have you seen much more further?
Yeah, I mean, I think our turnover, as I said, was 29%. One of our schools, it was 32 back in 2018. I mean, overall as a trust, our average is below 12%, so we have halved that. And I'm not just saying everything is down to education support, but I'm sure that's what you'd want to hear. But that is one element, isn't it, about showing that we do care, we have listened, we take wellbeing seriously, we understand the pressures of education. So it's one of many things we've done over the last 4 years to improve retention, but mainly to improve the well-being of our people, because we are only as good as our people, and our people need to be well to perform as they want to.
Excellent. You have you have again mentioned about the other services that you've used. Would you like to be able, or would you be able to talk more about?
The other service that we have used, which I sort of alluded to, that there were other services, but we have had I can't forget the name of it. Is it a trauma service or something? Well, I forget what the exact phrase is now. So we had an incident in one of our schools earlier this year, very traumatic event, witnessed by a certain number of staff. And as a result of that, we wanted to have a counsellor in school. So we didn't want to just say to people, oh, you can call education support. Obviously, we did that in the moment, but so I got in touch with you. And I think it happened on a Monday, and by the end of the week we had a counsellor who visited the school for a whole day. There was a variety of people who wanted appointments with her, and then a sort of open door session where she went in, and that was hugely appreciated by all of the staff who'd been impacted by the event. They were very complimentary about the counsellor in terms of how she made them feel, how she listened, and they found that very useful. And then she did a follow-up with me a week or so later to find out, if there was anybody else who needed a following call, a touchback base. And at the time, everyone was happy. Very sadly, for the same school, less than 6 months later, we had another traumatic event, different in nature, but equally as disturbing. And so once again, I called you, didn't I, Darren? And same thing occurred. I think it was a Monday or Tuesday. Friday, the counsellor was in the school, and I think what was particularly good is it was the same counsellor who had been before. And when she came, she said, oh, I immediately thought of such and such a person. I saw them last time. How has this impacted them? Do let them know that I'm here. And lots of people said to me afterwards that they found that really reassuring, that she was the same person. She remembered people, even though there was a sort of 6 months gap. And I think it was invaluable in helping the school colleagues directly and indirectly involved sort of deal with what had happened in the school. So that was an excellent service, and really something I would always go to if we ever had any kind of incident again.
Excellent. That's the critical incident support service.
Sorry, my mind went blank. I couldn't think of what it was called, but I couldn't speak more highly of the counsellor that came through that.
And have you found the other services that help support your health and wellbeing strategy?
So we have pushed out the coaching for the senior leadership. I've pushed that out several times. I'm not aware that we've got anyone who's accessing that at the moment. And likewise with the mindfulness and CBT, I've not really followed that through. As I say, we kind of find this balance. Maybe we haven't quite got it right in terms of, pushing out the services, saying to everybody it's confidential and we don't need to know, but then you also want to know to kind of get the feedback. What I do find that people talk about is when your newsletter comes out, I always forward that out, and I tend to forward it out with a sort of a bit of a header. So there was an excellent article, I think a week or so ago, about wellbeing for leaders and actually making some time for yourself. I was chatting to a couple of the head teachers and I said, oh, you know, did you read the article that came for education support? So sort of signpost it back to them, and then sort of mention on the coaching. For example, you did a webinar, didn't you, for teaching assistants probably about a month ago, so we sent that out to our staff, and again I highlighted up front there was something there for teaching assistants. I've not had any feedback as to whether we've had staff that attend, but we always do that. I know we have had staff who have said to me that they've been on some of your free webinars before and things. So
just for our participants, as you're aware, this webinar is being recorded. We do then edit them and we put all the webinars on our website. So the teaching assistants webinar that Sheila was referring to, you can download that as well and share.
Sorry, I just remembered actually one service, one of those, I was going to say Wednesdays, but it's actually Tuesdays, and it's, you can tell the kind of day I've had. But we also had some coaching training earlier this year, resilience, emotional resilience training through yourself. So we ran a couple of sessions as part of our twilight sessions for staff CPD, and they were well attended. We did one specifically geared towards support staff and one to teachers as well, and again fabulous, and I know a lot of people who attended said they really got something from that session, and it fitted really well again into the time we had available. So we had a sort of hour and a half slot, and I spoke to the course leader, and you know, she tailor-made the course so it was fitted in there. It was very good.
What are your plans for the future? What other resources are you looking, or other ways of expanding your health and wellbeing strategy?
We're looking at you know, how we signpost more of some of the services that you've touched on here. We've also got obviously other providers in the local area that do things like mindfulness. Actually is something that our staff have said they're interested in, so you know, we certainly will be promoting your mindfulness training. We've got an organisation in Bedford that provide that free as well, so we're looking to sort of do more signposting. The two things which I think other schools are already doing, so it may be that the people here are already doing that, but is to look at wellbeing day for staff. So there is an extra day available to staff to take for their well-being, so you don't have to take it to move house, or you know, go to your son's graduation, or because someone's ill, but actually it's recognizing that education is very fast-paced, and you know, actually sometimes you just need a bit of time out for yourself. So we're exploring how we can make that work, and also looking at how we build more time onto an inset day for wellbeing. So whether we have in speakers or sessions, so for example, we did the emotional resilience session as part of our twilight, but how we can kind of build on that, not make it compulsory, but so there is a selection of activities or events or time for people to take to focus on their wellbeing built into the school training day.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's a really comprehensive overview of how we've been able to support you with your health and wellbeing strategy, and a little bit about the school and how that's actually had a positive impact on the Multi Academy Trust as well. I think it's now time if we throw open the questions to the floor. So please, if anyone has a question they'd like to ask directly, then please either unmute yourself or also just put your question into the...
There was one in chat I saw come in.
Okay, yeah, with just one question that's in the chat box so far. So a lot of schools are having tough financial decisions to make at the moment. What would make an EAP a good choice against another service?
I think from our perspective, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we do always review usage reports and, you know, consider our budgets in the summer for it. I think it's what's most important thing, you know, your pupils and your staff. You know, it's that old analogy, isn't it, about being on a plane and fixing your own air mask before you fix somebody else's. And you know, actually, if we can do as much as we can to support our staff, and so our staff feel supported and we can maximise their well-being and help them deal with whatever other issues they've got in their life, then actually, you know, as we saw with labour turnover, you've got a financial payback there. If I look up not just over reduction in labour turnover in the last 4 years, but I look at the amount of money we've spent on recruitment, that has halved as well. So we've halved our labour turnover, and not unexpectedly we've halved recruitment. So I think all of that investment into things like education support help you you know, show that your people are valuable, and that's what we truly believe at heart.
Excellent. A couple of more questions that come in, which are more education support related questions. So the face-to-face counselling sessions, yes, we offer counselling either in several formats, whatever is most that individual is most comfortable with. So generally we look at the face-to-face counselling sessions. It's fast track. Generally you could have an individual having their first appointment with a face-to-face counsellor within 10 days of them making their first call into the EAP. However, we provide counselling in whatever format is that individual is most comfortable with. Some people are quite happy simply just to have a 1 hour telephone call on a weekly basis over 5 or 6 weeks, for example, with the same counsellor. We can also facilitate that by video conferencing. So the point is people access support in a timely manner, in a method that most suits them or they're most comfortable with. Isle of Wight, we have a network of around about 1,500 counsellors across the UK. So we will certainly have counsellors on the Isle of Wight that would be available. I can certainly find out the precise number, but yes, in general, we work to an SLA where an individual shouldn't have to travel more than 25 miles for counselling. Now, clearly that 25 miles generally would apply if you are, say, in the Highlands of Scotland or somewhere that's not particularly built up or habitated. But Isle of Wight, I shouldn't see that being a problem. I can certainly find out. Okay. As I say, if anybody would like some further information or have some further questions, then please just simply go to our website and you could just click on the contact us. Question that's just come in from Matthew. Send me an email, go to the contact us function. You can select on that and then you can choose from the drop down menu what you're interested in or what service you would like. Or alternatively, if you'd like to provide me your details directly, I'm more than happy to contact you. We will be sending a follow-up email after this event as well, and we'll be able to put my contact details in there also if you'd like some further details. We also have, as I say, the education website, which my colleague Anne's kindly put up the details there. It's www.educationsupport.org.uk/EAP. In that case, as I say, if there are no further questions, thank you very much, everybody. We very much appreciate you joining us this afternoon. And I would just say thank you once again to Sheila.
Thank you for inviting me on.
It was all our pleasure. Thank you very much. Okay, in that case, I will say goodbye to everybody. Thank you very much.